But then we got a little bit more of a possible contradiction skeptics might try to point out. When does this calling take place? Because according to Matthew and Mark, as we're about to see, it has it right here at the beginning. He comes into Capernaum, comes to the Sea of Galilee, says, hey guys, follow me, and then he goes to Peter's house, as we're going to see. Luke records it the other way, that he comes into Capernaum, he's going to do some preaching and teaching, work some miracles, go to Peter's house, and then the next day is whenever he calls them. So which one is it? What is the order that it happens in? One thing that I will remind you of, and I want to remind you of over and over again, because we have our way of thinking, our way of viewing, that we will judge the Scripture by, and that would be wrong, because they did not think the same way we do. Whenever we write a biography, whenever we are writing an account of something, we want to get it as accurate and in order chronologically as we can. That is not why they wrote. They were writing to make a point about Jesus, to tell us something about who he was, not necessarily the precise chronological order of events. And so what we actually see is that chronology is not important to them. However, if I'm going to have to choose one and say, okay, this is the one I really think is true, I'm going to go with Luke. Because Luke actually says in the opening verses of his gospel that he set out to write an orderly account. So Luke is at least trying to make it in order of events. So if I had to pick one, I'm going to go with Luke. But the fact is, they weren't as interested in getting everything absolutely in order. They were interested in making a point. And what's funny is this actually works against skeptics. This actually works against people who want to say that the Bible's just copied, that it was written later, that it's something, a fiction that was made up later, or that Matthew, Mark, and Luke all copied each other, or everybody was copying Mark, or whatever they want to say. Because if you're copying, you're going to copy. Luke actually has it in different order. And he includes the miraculous catch of fish. If you know the story, we're not going to go over it in detail today, but if you know the story, Jesus comes and he's teaching, and then after he's done teaching, he tells Peter, hey, let's go out and throw your nets. And Peter's like, oh, we haven't caught anything all night. He's like, no, don't trust me. Just go out in the deep water and throw your nets. And miraculous catch of fish, so much their nets were tearing, and another boat had to come over and help them drag it in. And so Luke records that. Matthew and Mark don't. Why not? If he was copying from Matthew or Mark, how come he has a story they don't have? How come it's in a different order than they put it in? And so that actually stands against those who would claim that it's just all copied or it's just all made up. Remember, Cold Case Detective, J. Warner Wallace, as we were looking at some of that, he actually says that it's the slight variations in witnesses' tales that actually are a hallmark of truth being told. They're recounting it as they understand it. And so if there's a slight variation, right, not a contradiction, there's nothing here that contradicts, right, but it's just a little slight variation, well, that actually shows the truth of a witness's testimony. And so that would actually stand in favor of